Have you ever walked out of a store, looked at your receipts and just thought, what just happened? How did I spend that much? Or maybe you've agreed to do something and hours later you're kicking yourself wondering why on earth you said yes. We all love to think we're in the driver's seat, right? That we're making these logical, well-thought-out choices. But what if I told you that most of the time, that's just an illusion? Today we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden forces that are really running the show.
And this is where the brilliant behavioral economist Dan Ariely comes in. His whole idea is that our irrationality, all those weird decisions we make, they're not random bugs in our system. Nope, they are the system. It's a feature, not a glitch. And the wildest part? Because it's a system, it's predictable. And if you can predict it, you can understand it.
So let's just get right to it and ask the big question. Are your decisions really your own? When you're deciding how much to pay for something or which product to buy, is that really you in full control? You know, classic economic theory would say, of course, you're a rational human being. But behavioral economics, well, it tells a much, much juicier story.
For the longest time, the main idea was that we're all these rational actors. You know, like we're all walking around with little supercomputers in our heads, constantly weighing the pros and cons and making the absolute perfect choice. But it turns out that's just not how our brains work, not even close. We're actually full of these mental shortcuts and biases that consistently and predictably lead us astray.
Okay, let's dive into the good stuff with our first huge cognitive bias. It's called anchoring. The idea is simple but so powerful. Our brains have this weird tendency to grab onto the very first piece of information we see, especially a number, and then use it as a reference point for everything that follows. It gets stuck and it can totally warp our sense of value without us even realizing it.
To see just how powerful this is, Ariely ran this genius experiment with his MIT students. First, he asked them to do something totally random. Write down the last 2 digits of their social security number. This number has zero connection to anything, right? Then he asked, hypothetically, would you pay that amount in dollars for these items, like a bottle of wine or some chocolate? And then he started a real auction.
The results are just mind-blowing. The students who happen to have higher social security numbers, say in the 80s and 90s, they consistently bid way more money for the exact same items. I'm talking sometimes over 300% higher than the students with low numbers, all based on a completely random number they thought about for just a few seconds. It's crazy.
That first totally irrelevant number became an anchor in their minds. It subconsciously set a benchmark for what felt like a reasonable price. And once you see this trick, you see it everywhere. That super high manufacturer's suggested retail price on a new gadget, that's an anchor. It's designed to make any sales price, no matter how high, feel like an absolute steal.
So, anchoring is powerful stuff, for sure. But there's another force out there, a single word that can hijack our logic even more effectively. It's a word that makes our rational brain just switch off. And that word is, of course, free.
This experiment shows the zero price effect perfectly. So check this out. People were offered a choice, a fancy Lindt truffle for 15 cents or a basic Hershey's Kiss for 1 cent. Most people, about 73%, went for the better chocolate, the truffle. Makes sense. But then the researchers dropped the price of each by just 1 single cent. So now the truffle is 14 cents and the Kiss is free. Rationally, the truffle is still the better deal, right? But the results flipped completely. Suddenly, 69% of people grabbed the free Kiss. The allure of free made them abandon all logic.
Now, that irrational pull of the word free actually gives us a clue about another major quirk in our thinking. It shows that we don't just have one set of rules for making decisions. We actually have 2 completely different operating systems running in our heads, and things get really weird when we mix them up.
On one hand, you have social norms. This is the warm and fuzzy world of community, of favors, of friendship. You help a friend move, they buy you pizza. You don't keep a running tab. On the other hand, you have market norms. This is business. It's cold, hard, transactional. It's all about wages, prices, costs, and what you get in return. 2 totally different worlds.
And here's the kicker. The moment you introduce money into a social exchange, you completely destroy it. You yank people out of that warm, fuzzy social world and shove them into the cold, transactional market world. Offering to help your friend move is a social act. Offering them $5 to help, well, now it just feels cheap. It's almost an insult. Smart companies know this. They try to build loyalty by creating a sense of community, making you feel like a friend, not just a transaction.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about something a little uncomfortable. dishonesty. We all see ourselves as good, moral people, right? But the research shows that, well, most of us are willing to cheat. Just probably not as much as you'd think.
So, in another classic experiment, people were paid for each math problem they solved correctly in a given time. When an experimenter checked their answers, the average person solved about 3 problems. Let's call that our honest baseline.
But then they changed one simple rule. Participants could now shred their own answer sheet and just tell the experimenter how many they got right. And what happened? The average score jumped to 5.5. People cheated. But what's so fascinating is that they didn't claim to solve all 20 problems. They just cheated by a little bit.
This leads to what's called the fudge factor theory. What it shows is that our dishonesty isn't just a simple cost-benefit analysis. It's a balancing act. We have a desire to get the benefit from cheating, sure, but we also have this deep desire to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and still see a good, honest person. So we cheat just up to the level where we can still rationalize it to ourselves. We fudge it.
So if the threat of getting caught isn't the whole story, what can stop this kind of cheating? The answer is shockingly simple. In another version of the experiment, researchers just had people sign a statement referencing an honor code before they started the task. And the result? Cheating completely disappeared. It dropped right back to that honest baseline of 3. A simple moral reminder was enough to activate their desire to be a good person, and the fudge factor just vanished.
So, we've got anchoring, the siren song of free, these 2 worlds of social and market rules, and our personal fudge factor. How does this all get used in the real world? Well, these aren't just quirky things academics study. They are the core components of the modern persuasion playbook.
The key is just to learn how to recognize these patterns out in the wild. That super high retail price is an anchor. A buy one, get one free deal is exploiting the power of free. A friendly salesperson who remembers your name and asks about your family, they're using social norms to build rapport. And, those really vague expense policies or confusing terms of service, they're giving you just enough wiggle room to play with your own fudge factor.
By understanding these deep-seated, totally predictable patterns of irrationality, you really do become a more discerning person, a more conscious decision maker. This isn't about becoming cynical or distrusting everyone. It's about being empowered. It's about knowing the game so you can decide for yourself when and how you actually want to play.
We are all operating on these hidden scripts every single day. But the cool thing is, now you can start to see them. The next time you feel that weird, irrational pull toward a deal, or feel a strange social obligation to agree to something, you'll know why. You'll see the script. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with that knowledge?